Thanks very much for staying with us. Time now for Eye on Africa with me, Georgia Calvin-Smith. Tonight, Kenyan mourners paying tribute to the veteran statesman Raila Odinga face more loss as at least 3 are killed as security fires on tightly packed crowds trying to catch a glimpse of the late statesman's remains. Also, when it comes to aviation, Africa cannot afford to stay on standby. Its inroads into aerospace reach new heights this week as Morocco begins to equip itself to build cutting-edge engines for Airbus and Boeing aircraft. And Somalia is reviving its tourism industry after decades of conflicts. Hundreds of people can head weekly to explore the country's natural beauty and cultural heritage. But first, at least 3 people were killed at a stadium in Nairobi after Kenyan security forces opened fire on huge crowds gathered to view the body of the late Raila Odinga. The 80-year-old's remains were returned from India, where he died earlier this week. Supporters thronged to pay their respects at the Kasarani Stadium and have accused police of using an unnecessarily heavy-handed approach.
We are in pain. It's hurting us so much. People have been beaten and killed, and we just come to mourn Baba.
What we are seeing is a mockery to democracy. We are so peaceful. People are waiting to see the mzee, but it came chaotic when the policemen started disrupting.
Well, our correspondent in Kenya was in Nairobi on Thursday and sent us this report.
It's still unclear why the police shot at these people. It seems that some of them were trying to access the VIP area of Kasarani Stadium when the police shot both live ammunition and tear gas canisters. There was a stampede, several people were injured and at least 4 of them were killed. And I can tell you that many people here in Kenya are shocked. They don't understand why the police shot live ammunition at people gathering to pay their respects to Raila Odinga. And many are wondering what will happen during the next 3 days. On Friday, there will be a state funeral held here in Nairobi at Nyayo Stadium, which is located in the city center. And so many are wondering what will be the police reaction if many Raila Odinga supporters are coming to the stadium. If too many of them are around the stadium to access the funeral, what will be the police reaction? Then on Saturday, the late Raila Odinga will travel to Kisumu. It's his stronghold next to the Lake Victoria. There will be a public viewing in a stadium once again. And then on Sunday, he will be buried in his farm next to his mother.
Bastien Renouy there for us. Now, former Congolese President Joseph Kabila appeared in public for the first time this week since being sentenced to death in absentia for war crimes and treason. He headed up a meeting of several Congolese opposition figures in Nairobi earlier this week. Now, the appearance may strain relations between Kenya and DR Congo. Kinshasa accuses Kabila of working with Rwanda in support of the M23 rebels who seized key cities in eastern DRC earlier this year. Meanwhile, Kinshasa and the M23 have taken an important step towards rolling back some of that violent instability that's plagued the country. The government and the Rwanda-backed militia have agreed to create a system to monitor a ceasefire. And yet, cracks are already starting to show. Emmett Livingston tells us more.
It only took a day for the accusations to start flying. On Wednesday, the M23 accused the Congolese government of violating a ceasefire agreement. This came after a highly important milestone in the peace process in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo was reached only the day before. On Tuesday, M23 rebels and Congolese government officials agreed to a mechanism to monitor a ceasefire. This monitoring body will be composed half of M23, half of Congolese government officials. And while it's a step forward, significant differences between the two sides remain.
This is
one of the confidence-building measures, but it is also one of the many points of contention between the two sides. So we are talking about the mechanisms for releasing prisoners, and there is also the mechanism with the ICRC, which has already been accepted. which is another step forward. However, there has been no exchange of prisoners so far. Normally, after this signing, we should now begin discussing the substance of the agreement between the M23 and the Congolese government. But there are many points on which they disagree.
One glaring question is what happens if one of the parties breaks the ceasefire. The United States, Qatar, the African Union, the UN and others are observers, but there's no guarantee that anyone will step up to enforce it. The M23 said that the Congolese government violated the ceasefire only hours after signing the terms of the monitoring mechanism. The Congolese government hasn't yet officially responded.
Well, in Tunisia, protests against a fertilizer plant at the centre of a pollution scandal continued to escalate on Thursday. Police tear-gassed and clashed with crowds in the city of Gabes. It's at the heart of the country's phosphate industry. Residents accuse the site, owned by the Chemical Group of Tunisia industrial complex, of causing rising rates of cancer, respiratory illness and environmental destruction. Successive governments have promised to move or modernise the plant, however, have failed to deliver. Now, the global aviation industry is forecast to be valued at around $8.5 trillion by 2043, with the manufacture sector specifically hitting about $423 billion last year alone. Now, the continent cannot afford to stay on standby. And its inroads into aerospace reached new heights this week when Morocco began building a dedicated industrial complex in Nouassir, where cutting-edge engines will be built for Airbus aircraft, the only production site for them so far out of France for this particular kind of engine. Engines for Boeing aircraft will also be produced, and the kingdom says that the win is more than just a technological achievement. Well, to find out why, I am joined now by Minister of Employment and Skills, Younes Sekouri. Younes, thanks so much for making the time to speak to me. So Morocco's pretty excited about this. Why is it such a big deal? And what did it take to get here?
Limitation. It's indeed a big deal, and we're not here by coincidence or by serendipity. We've been working for 2 decades now. 20 years ago, we were less than $100 million turnover on aeronautics and airspace industry. And now we're more than 2.5 billion euros. And with this project alone, with Safran, we will be doubling our capacities in terms of exports. So a lot of works in terms of vision, because His Majesty's vision, His Majesty's King Mohammed VI's vision, was built on a couple of pillars. The first thing that is very critical to these kind of companies is talent. Then you have, of course, green energy, and of course the capacity for the country to protect the investments in terms of macroeconomic stability. So these 3 pillars have been built and are bold now, and they made a company like Safran come to Morocco and develop a twin plant, by the way, because their strategy, the foreign direct investors, they are looking for risk management procedures where they have twin plants between their plants in the original country, like France for this case, and another foreign country, so that there's no shortage in terms of production to their, of course, customers.
So it's also, you've also lauded this as being a really good step in terms of creating jobs for Morocco. But what does it mean on that front for the whole of the African continent? Do you see that there being a knock-on effect in terms of positive impact for the continent's aerospace landscape?
Morocco has been very, very present at the continental level. His Majesty's vision and strategy with our partners and friends countries in the whole African continent was very strong a couple of decades ago. By the way, we started with the telecom, with the banking industries, and now we're moving to new kinds of partnerships. Of course, this investment, this kind of advances in terms of industrial strategy, in terms of structural change, they prove, first of all, that an African country can do it. So we can move from traditional sectors like agriculture, trade, to high-end industrial policies. The second thing is in terms of talents, because we provide thousands of scholarships to African countries so that the students can come and study in our institutes, be it universities or vocational training institutes. And by the way, 12 cities of skills were launched by His Majesty in each of the 12 regions of Morocco, where we have complete villages that integrate these kind of trainings. The third thing, of course, is in terms of investments, and I will be not surprised that by the next years or decades, we will develop strong partnerships with African countries, including in these very specific and high-end industries.
That sounds pretty promising. I don't have very much time with you, Minister, but this is just the beginning. What will it actually take to deliver on building this complex and moving even further in terms of leveling up Morocco's aerospace clout?
Fast. So the project is a 12-month project at most. So by the end of next year, we will be delivering one of the plants, the other one in of 2026. And we'll have these 1,000 jobs that are not regular or ordinary jobs. And we're already building capacities in terms of trainings. And of course, there is this technological transfer that is very important. As you said, one of the handful countries that will be able to build an entire engine. It's the leading and best-seller engine, LEAP, that is in more than 4,000 aircrafts in the world. And the forecast for this company, for instance, is 11,000 engines that are requested, demanded by Boeing, by Airbus, and other users.
Thank you so much, Minister Younes Sekouri, Moroccan Minister for Employment, joining us there to speak about some pretty exciting developments in the continent and Morocco's aerospace industry. Well, we head to Somalia now, which is reviving its tourism industry. After decades of conflict, citizens are in their hundreds every week now able to go on excursions to explore the country's natural beauty. Take a look.
Each week, hundreds of Somalis hop on these buses as part of guided tours, giving them a chance to explore parts of their country they've never seen.
People of all ages, children, teenagers, and adults come here and find joy. We hope that tourism will expand beyond the city limits once security improves.
Camel rides and shared meals, simple pleasures but symbolic ones. For many, this is the first time they've travelled freely in years.
For me, this is a wonderfully unique experience, unlike any other. This is the first time I have come here for a tour like this, and I'm truly grateful.
Officials say around 150 people join these tours each week.
Our tours were inspired by the improved security in Mogadishu. People feel safe, and that confidence is encouraging more of them to explore and enjoy the sights that we offer.
After decades of civil war, militia rule, and the long insurgency of al-Shabaab, Somalia is inching toward recovery. And these small journeys feel like steps on a fragile road back to normal life.
Well, that's it for Eye on Africa. Thanks for joining us, though, and do so again if you can. Till then, take care.